Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Ins and Outs with Liam, this dude, and Lynn.
Hello.
First off, just happy Juneteenth to everybody who's watching. Today is June 19th, which is Juneteenth. For you guys who don't know what Juneteenth is, it's a holiday based around when slavery ended in Texas after the Civil War. If you want more information about it, definitely Google it, go check it out. Today we do want to, in honor of Juneteenth, an article I chose is all about Black and brown voices in sex and sexuality writing and education. But before we talk about them, I do just want to talk real quick about white supremacy and the culture and the society we live in. Because as in much of other parts of our culture, white supremacy society has long silenced or shut out Black and brown folk from the conversation on sex and sexuality. Not only has it shut down their voices, it's also affected their bodies by continuously being used and abused over decades through experimentation, sterilization, and vilifying Black sexuality. Planned Parenthood is not free from this kind of discrimination either. We are working to be better. And at Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York, we have amazing educators of all different races, genders, ethnicities, and sexualities. And today I just want to promote some of these educators, both locally in Buffalo and broadly across the United States and across the world. So the first person I want to promote is one of our educators in Buffalo, Tamika. She has an amazing podcast, her and a friend of hers, called Gotta Let 'Em Know. It talks about all sorts of different issues. It is a bit, they use language, right? So if you are offended by people that are straightforward and gonna use some curse words maybe, be aware that that's what they do. They do talk very straightforward. They don't shut down their language or anything like that, which I definitely promote and support. If you want to check them out, definitely recommend it. I'm gonna link them in the bio. So click the link, check them out. They're an amazing duo, and they have some really great conversations about all sorts of topics.
Yeah, Tamika is great. Sorry, Liam. No. I wasn't invited to her wedding, so I'm not sorry. Tamika is my work best friend, and her podcast is wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. I loved working with her when we were in the office together. She was me and her were often in the office together at the same time, so it was really great just to talk with her, and she was awesome.
But she is pretty straightforward, which I like, and that podcast is very straightforward.
Oh yeah, and she'll call you on your shit fast, which is great.
Yeah, which I like, yeah.
Yeah. The article I read, go ahead.
I just wanted to say also before, if anybody is interested in Juneteenth and knowing more, there's an educator in Niagara Falls named Saladin Allah who made an animated video. And so it's a really good way to teach to younger people about it. And he actually does some really cool work around toxic masculinity, and he gives tours at the Underground Railroad Museum. And his animated video is very good. And I think we posted it on the Connections Facebook.
Definitely. I'll link that video in the description too. Saladin's a really awesome dude. I've loved working with him before. Yeah,
he gives a really good tour too of the Underground Railroad Museum. Highly recommended.
Yeah, I mean, also just the Underground Railroad Museum in Niagara Falls, highly recommend it. We did it last year with our Mayor Summer Youth, or?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
The Mayor Summer Youth program in Niagara Falls. And it was awesome. We got we didn't get a tour from Saladin. We got a tour from Emily, maybe?
I don't know. Was I there?
What?
Was I there?
Yeah, it was me, you, all the teens.
Oh, I've taken the tour 6 times because everybody does the tour differently, and depending on what's happening, they weave it to current day stories, and so depending on what time and what news is happening, it's different every time. They also just did a Black Lives Matter mural, which I think is pretty rad. And then I guess this is getting all off topic, but they're doing 8 more murals in the story of freedom. And so if anybody's watching this knows an artist, It is a paid mural gig this summer in Niagara Falls.
Very cool.
Okay.
Shout out to Niagara Falls and their what is it? What's outdoor art called?
Public art.
Public art. Yeah, they have a lot of great public art stuff. They have like a whole alley of public art, and Niagara Falls is really dope.
Yeah, catching up to Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo has.
Okay, so your article.
Yeah. Okay. So my article. I really wanted to find an article that supported and like pushed out the voices of Black and brown sex educators and sex writers. So I found this really awesome article that has I think 25 different sex educators or sex writers that are people of color. And so I'm not going to talk about all 25 of them because we just don't have the time for that. And you guys would probably get bored of me just like sitting here talking about them over and over again. But I was trying to make a list of just a few to talk about, and it was really hard to narrow them down. So I really recommend check out the article, go on their Twitters. They have some like really dope content on their Twitters. They're making lots and lots of stuff, and I really, really highly recommend going to check them out because they all like crazy fantastic. Some that I do really want to talk about though. This one person, their name's Carly, and they have a site called Dildo or Dildon't, which awesome name.
It's a good name, yeah.
And they talk about sex toys, and they're very body positive. And they talk about like body positive sex toys, which I found really interesting. They wrote an article that I'm planning on doing in one of these upcoming videos. A lot of these people, a lot of them are writers, so a lot of these articles I'm going to talk about in the future. So just to let y'all know. We had another person, Kevin Patterson of Poly Role Model. They've written a book and they have a podcast all about polyamory and its intersectionality with race, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. They wrote a book about it?
Yeah, he wrote a book about it. Or I'm not sure how they identify, but yeah, they wrote a book about it. So I'm really excited to kind of see and read more about what they do.
Yeah.
We have Mr. BLK, the Black Pomegranate, and his wife, Mrs. Pomegranate. And he's a rope expert, which I find really interesting. So he has different tutorials about how to do rope bondage play. The person who wrote the article actually contacted him and talked to him about it because she has some physical disabilities and limitations with her body. And so she always wanted to try rope play, but never thought she could. And Mr. Pomegranate helped her to overcome these limitations so that she could experience this kind of sexual erotica that she wanted to. And I think that's really awesome that, he's body positive, but he's also he wants to help people that have limitations on how to express their sexual needs.
Right. A lot of times people with disabilities are left out of the conversation.
Definitely.
That's pretty rad, yeah.
And a lot of these people on this page, they talk about people with disabilities, and they talk about, how disability, race, and sexuality intersect a lot of times. And I find that really awesome.
Yeah.
Which brings me to Mary Dev, who talks about disability, race, consent, and promotes a lot of disabled bloggers. So if you check out Mary's Twitter account, she's always promoting other disabled writers and bloggers, which I find really awesome that she kind of, pushes out other people's content too, and supports other people, because a lot of times, again, these people are kind of lost or forgotten about, and nobody really pays attention to them. And it's really, really important that we hear more than just certain voices, right?
Right. It's like algorithms and all of that purposely suppress, right? It's all intentional. It's all a systematic thing. Yeah. And so if Liam shares Mr. Pomegranate's post, then I share it. It's just a amplifying it in a way that maybe can override the algorithm, which is inherently not inclusive.
Definitely. Breaking these bubbles we all kind of fall into. Because of the algorithms on Facebook. If you only search certain things on your Facebook, and you only read certain things on your Facebook, that's all that's ever going to show up. And I mean, I'm guilty of doing that, right? I definitely live in a bubble.
Yeah. And I also just think like if you curate your social media, it does change, it like slowly will change your perspective over time. And so like if people go to this list and they add 10 of the people on their Instagram, that means as they slowly scroll, it'll just be like, it's like when I was trying to become more body positive, I just started following all these body positive Instas. And then like slowly it was just always in my feed. And then it like just becomes way more normalized. And then you start feeling a little less like shit about your body.
Definitely. And so hopefully if we, if people promote these different voices of, different disability or different abilities, different race and genders, different sexualities, we'll learn, right? To kind of like how to be better people.
Right. One of the people on the list, BK Chan, I went to her training in New York City a few years ago. And it was one of the best workshops I've ever been to my entire life. Like, you go to a training and it's something that's like pretty, like, it's not obvious, but it's like not complex, but you just have never thought of it before. It's all about like emotional intelligence and how to like weave emotional intelligence into our teaching. And like, I still think about her workshop all the time whenever I teach. And so to see her on this list, I was like, oh, BK Chan, I should check out to see what she's up to. And she is offering a really cool training, like a multi-part training on her website. And I would highly recommend it to anybody who is looking to learn more about emotional intelligence.
Is that the training's about emotional intelligence?
Yeah, it's really interesting because like, the way we talk to people about like sex is don't have sex, right?
Yeah.
And her perspective is like, okay, what are the feelings that go into telling somebody I don't want to have sex? Am I nervous? Am I scared? Am I, or like so it changes your perspective from like walking people through the process of feeling their feelings about something to help them make decisions, which I found very helpful because it's true, like don't have sex is easy to say, but it's hard to say, I don't want to have sex with you because of all the feelings. And I found her, like I would attend any workshop. If I ever go to a conference and she's there, I'm all in on BK Chan.
Nice. I'll have to check her out. They also, they mentioned, I forgot to write her name down, but they mentioned the woman who started Sex Down South, or one of the people who started Sex Down South, which is an amazing sex ed conference. Our coworker Shayla goes to it every year, and I've heard like really, really amazing things about it, and I've always wanted to check it out.
Yeah. There was one person who, I can't remember her name. She makes, what are they called? The like tassels that you put on your nipples when you're doing dancing or.
Oh, they're just called tassels?
I guess they're just called tassels, but they're really beautiful and she makes customized ones.
Huh.
And so I went through her Etsy page and she just has like pages of like really, and you can curate your own. So like, say you really like the Buffalo Bills and you want them to be like blue and red with like little buffaloes that spin around, like she can do it. It's actually really rad. She also made a clitoris cookie cutter.
I saw the clitoris cookie cutter. I was like, yes, I want that.
Well, I went to buy it and it sold out. And then you scroll and it says like other things you may like. And the first thing is a Minnie Mouse cookie cutter. And I'm just like, I don't think Etsy has a real grasp of what I'm looking for here.
I mean, I bet there's a lot of people who overlap cookie cutter clitorises and Minnie Mouse cookie cutters.
Maybe. I don't think a cookie cutter, I don't think a cookie shaped like a clitoris would actually bake very well is my real concern.
Yeah. I wonder, was it shaped like a clitoris? Was it shaped like was it the internal, external clitoris? Or was it a...
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think it's funny when cookies bake and they don't look like what you think they're going to look like.
Yeah, because it probably like puff up more and like...
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't know, the clitoris is not just that little nub on the outside of the body. There's a huge organ that goes around the entire like vaginal walls.
Yeah, it looks like a Pokemon.
Yeah, kind of. Clitormon.
I once Googled, have I told you the story? I once Googled, I was at school, and I Googled clitoris Pokemon because I wanted to see if anybody else had my theory on it. and it was blocked. And I was like, how dare they block the word clitoris at school? This is in Oregon. And then it turns out that actually Pokemon was the blocked word. Because you can't search Pokemon, but you can search clitoris at the school, yeah.
You should. It's a body part. Agreed.
But Pokemon probably should focus on your studies.
Definitely. So some other people I wanted to mention. Ari of Ari's Room. They talk about why they wrote a whole article about why they don't use the word foreplay anymore. So I'm definitely going to be reading that and maybe doing a video on it. So check it out. There's another article about eating the effing box by someone called Fairy Cake, which is all about how they love to perform oral sex on their partners, but they hate when partners don't want to perform it back. The Charm of Choking, which I thought was a really interesting article that I want to check out and read. And then Sadine Francis is a queer LGBTQ YouTuber who has a really dope YouTube page that talks about pop culture, sexuality, social justice, race, all sorts of other things. Again, all these things will be in the links, so please check them out. It's really, really awesome content. Highly recommend all these people.
Yeah, and if anybody is watching this video in like the next week before, like literally today is
June 19th.
June 19th, and this happens in 10 days. There's this really great conference. Liam, I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called the SLAM, Sexuality Liberators and Movers Conference. And it is like a full day focused on having really awesome sex educators of color doing some really interesting talks. And so if you Google, like, I think I Googled SLAM Sex Ed Conference 2020, I found the information that way. It's in 10 days, so like this is time sensitive, but you know, the cool thing is like it's online, and so like if you don't like being out in public, or if you couldn't afford to travel, right, like we all have limited budgets, it covers it removes the cost of travel and hotel, so you can go. But I'm going, and it seems really interesting.
Definitely, I'll check it out.
Are you gonna go?
Maybe. Does it cost money?
Yeah.
Oh, I had to fill out forms then.
No, you don't have to fill out the form.
Oh, no?
No, because it's too soon.
Okay.
But it's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can pay for it in my own pocket, depending on how much it is.
And I think they offer a discount if you're paying for it out of your own pocket and you're on a fixed income. So.
Oh, nice.
But anyway, it seems really interesting. It's some of the topics. There's a person named Stephanie Zapata who's teaching there, and I saw them talk at, I think, the Sex Ed conference, and it was like you stand up at the end and clap because like you just, it was just like really remarkable and really great. But it's about like abolishing anti-Blackness in the sex ed classroom, how environmental racism and reproductive health overlap. There's a person named Cindy Lee Alves who's talking, who I went to their workshop once, and it was about like hip hop and sexuality into an interactive game, and we actually use that now as like an activity. Anyway, really like some of the best people I've seen at conferences at this conference.
Nice. And if you want like more webinars and stuff too, definitely check out Sister Song. They have amazing webinars. And yeah, they're just awesome webinars about all sorts of different topics about sex and social justice and stuff like that.
Yeah, good article this week, Liam.
Definitely. Let's talk about yours, because yours is also a really great article and brings up a lot of really interesting points.
Yeah, so my article this week, Liam will put it in the bio or in the text below, but it was about the finale of 13 Reasons Why. And particularly, by the way, Liam, have you watched 13 Reasons Why?
No, have you?
I watched season 1, and that's it, but I remember the characters. Anyway, so what happens is, and this is a spoiler, and don't be mad at me because the internet would have spoiled it for you anyway.
I wish I knew how to like do YouTube videos where I could like put spoiler alert like flashing.
So Justin, who's like a main character in 13 Reasons Why, he ends up dying at the end of season 4, and he dies of complications of AIDS. I think he has like fungal meningitis or something. But it's like such a problematic ending because, so the way it works is Justin is involved in some sort of, I don't even remember it completely. There's like, so, you know, in the beginning, Hannah ends up committing suicide, and Justin is somehow, like they were dating or something. I actually don't remember the storyline. But anyway, then he somehow drops out of school, becomes addicted to drugs, becomes a sex worker. Season 4, he is in recovery. I'm sorry if I'm screwing this up because I did not watch it. He's in recovery. He goes to prom. Things look promising and up and great. And then he faints at prom. And between prom and graduation, which is like a month, he dies of fungal meningitis because of his AIDS. And as you might agree, Liam, we spent a lot of time talking about the stigma of HIV, and they just like completely missed an opportunity to like teach about HIV and teach about maintenance, because there's all this stigma like, oh, I'm gonna get HIV, and if I get HIV, I'm gonna die. But that's not true, right? Like, I mean, you could if you don't treat it, but so much medical advancement has been done that now you can live with HIV just taking a couple of pills a day. And this just like perpetuates a stigma about HIV that has existed for years that we've been trying to get rid of.
Yeah, and it's like, like when did he get it, right? Because HIV can take like up to 10 to 11 years to have like really any noticeable effect on your body. And so if he was like I read the article, right? And it talks about like his mom was also a drug addict. So if he was like born with it, it would have shown up when he was like 10 or 11 or even earlier probably. And then if he got it when he was like doing sex work or doing drugs, that was only like 2 years ago.
Right.
So like neither of those.
It's highly unlikely that you would progress to AIDS in that short period of time.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just not how it works.
He also went to rehab, and maybe I'm wrong, but every rehab I've ever experienced, and I used to teach in drug rehab for like a pretty serious, for probably a couple of years, they usually test you when you go in. And so like, why didn't he find this out sooner? You know what I mean?
When he was at rehab?
Right. And like 13 Reasons Why, have you read the drama over the past few years about it?
I know they have like a lot of like, the first season, they like were like perpetuating suicide culture or something. And that's obviously not a good look.
Right. Yeah, they just seem like they're trying to be like, they choose sensation over like putting quality. You can be sensational and informed. Like, I think Grey's Anatomy is a good example. You know, I mention Grey's often. Grey's like will teach you a lesson in an interesting way without like adding to stigma, or at least they've gotten better at it over time. Where this was like, how can we be as shocking as possible? But it's like harmful. And it's the same thing with their suicide storyline. Like, they were trying to start a conversation, but they did it in like a way that was like also trying to make money, it seems. And so it just like was not helpful. It was harmful. It's just like a harmful message.
Yeah, and they want you to start a conversation, but they don't give you like good content or good like information about that conversation. They just BS.
Right, it's irresponsible.
Yeah.
I also just think it's kind of annoying. Like, this kid went from like, you know, all this stuff, and he gets it together, and he like becomes, you know, he like no longer uses drugs. He moves in with Clay. He like, it turns out he got into college, and he wrote like this beautiful story about like how he has a family that's like accepted him, and then they just kill him. It's like, come on, like, do you have to like traumatize people? Like, can't you just have like a positive, oh, and he has HIV and he found out and he takes his medicine and now he leads a healthy sex life and he goes to college and he like thrives.
Yeah. Or even like a storyline about him finding out he has HIV and then struggling with taking his medication, because some people, when they get HIV, they kind of like deny it and they don't take their medication because they think like, if I don't take my medication, I don't really have it or something like that. And so a more in-depth storyline that has more like complexity to it would have been much better than just like he gets AIDS and dies.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. And I also just think like, so if you told me, Lynn, if you get HIV, you're going to die. I'm way less likely to like get tested because I'm like, oh my goodness, if I have HIV, I'm going to die. And so like, it's easier to live in like denial, right? Than like find out the facts. And so it like kind of perpetuates the thought like, oh, dilly-dallying is okay because it's inevitable that you're gonna die anyway, so like why find out? But the truth is like if you get tested today, you can manage it. But if you get tested in 4 years, it might be too late. And they're just encouraging like dilly-dallying.
Yeah, I mean, HIV like nowadays is an incredibly manageable disease. You take your medication. I think it's down to like maybe 1 pill or 2 pills. It is just like any other chronic disease you have to learn to manage. Diabetes, cancer, other heart disease, cholesterol.
Right, asthma, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like any of those. And if you take your medication every single day, you become undetectable, which means you can't transmit it to your sexual partners. And so a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's not like other chronic diseases because other people can catch it from me. But in reality, people can't catch it from you anymore if you take your medication correctly.
Right.
And so it's really, really like we don't need to have this kind of stigma around it. And this show is just kind of like continuing the fear of I'm going to get AIDS and die like that. And it's not. It's a slow, painful, agonizing death that's just like one of the worst things you could ever experience. I've watched videos on it and it's just like messed up.
It just, I mean, I don't know what I expected, but I guess I hoped for better. You know, and I hope that they address this. I hope that they talk about it and say like, hey, yeah, we were wrong, but I don't think they will based on the fact that they've now made 4 seasons of like kind of problematic material.
Yeah.
I will say though, that we say that HIV is like super manageable, but we should also probably include the fact that like, because of like systemic racism in medicine and healthcare, like disproportionately Black people and people of color die of HIV or develop AIDS. And like there are still like serious problems in like healthcare that lead to people dying, but it is just a much more manageable disease just based on like the science and the medicine.
Yeah, it can be really managed, but because of racism,
placement of health centers, all the racist
transportation,
intertwining of the universe. So Liam, I think we might be, if we are wrapping up, I'd like to make a request. Last week, you put the worst screen cap of me as the picture, and I will refuse to do this again. If you put up such a heinous, like, listen, there's gotta be a cute picture of both of us in this 25 minutes.
So they only give me 3 pictures to choose from. It's ridiculous.
Freaking YouTube is playing me.
I know. I wish we had we'll talk about this offline, but we should talk to Caitlin Dottie about making us a thing so I can just use that as our thumb note.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And maybe we could like practice and take some photos.
Right.
You know, maybe I'll brush my hair one day and we can like do a little promo that is us.
I mean, I do need a new glamour shot. You saw my one from when I was 26.
Yeah, I really liked it. You looked like a young babe.
Yeah, I mean, I was a young babe. Now I'm an old, raggedy.
I do feel that sometimes. Sometimes I have like a wrinkle right here. Do you see like this furrowed brow?
Yep. Mine's always like my eyes. I have these like terrible bags. But enough about us.
You got the face of an angel. Okay, so smash that subscribe button, everybody. Go click on the links in Liam's article and make sure you're sharing things and amplifying voices of color. And then come back next week where maybe Liam will talk about one of the articles from that website.
Definitely, I definitely will. And also, like, if you have any people you follow that talk about sex, sexuality, stuff like that, leave it in the comments. We always are loving to try and find more content to look at, to use, and support people of, you know, not just Black and brown folk, but queer folk, people with disabilities, whatever. Like, just, we need to broaden our pool.
Diversify our toolbox.
Yeah, we
We're
need to
teaching,
diversify
yeah.
our toolbox.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool.
Okay.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us. I will see you all next week. We will see you all next week.
Bye, Liam.
Bye, adios.